The full moon hung heavy and low over the red pine pack territory, a giant, unblinking eye watching the tragedy about to unfold. Mia Thornwell smoothed the fabric of her white dress for the 100th time. Her hands were trembling. It was a simple dress, the best her meager savings as a pack Omega could afford. But tonight, she felt like a queen. Tonight was the night everything changed. Tonight, Ethan Blackwood, the Alpha's son and the man who had stolen her heart 3 years ago, would finally claim her publicly. The air inside the packhouse hall was thick with the scent of pine, roasted meat, and the musk of over 200 wolves. Chatter buzzed like a hive of angry bees. But Mia tuned it out. She only had eyes for the figure standing on the dais at the front of the room. Ethan looked like a god, tall, with shoulders broad enough to carry the weight of the world, and hair the color of midnight. He was laughing at something a beta warrior said, his teeth flashing white. "You look beautiful, Mia," a soft voice whispered. Mia turned to see her mother, Sarah. Shrinking into the shadows of a pillar, Sarah was a washerwoman, her hands red and cracked from years of scrubbing the Alpha's linens. "Do you think he'll like the dress?" "Mom," Mia asked, her voice barely a squeak. He said, wear white." "He will love it," Sarah said, though her eyes held a glimmer of fear that Mia was too love-struck to notice. "Just remember your place, honey. Don't speak unless spoken to." Music began to play a heavy, drum-laden beat that signaled the start of the ceremony. The crowd parted. Mia took a deep breath, filling her lungs with the scent of burning cedar and anticipation. She stepped forward. Ethan turned, his eyes, usually warm like melted chocolate when they were alone in the forest, were currently hard, cold, unrecognizable. Mia's smile faltered, but she kept walking. Nerves. She told herself, he's just nervous about taking over the pack. She reached the base of the dais. The room went silent. The silence wasn't respectful. It was predatory. "Ethan," Mia breathed, bowing her head slightly before looking up through her lashes. "I am here, as you asked." Ethan didn't reach for her hand. He didn't smile. He stepped forward, his voice booming, amplified by the alpha command that made every wolf in the room stiffen. "Mia Thornwell," he began, his tone devoid of the whispers of love he had fed her for 3 years. "You stand before the red pine pack tonight under the delusion that you have a place by my side." Mia's heart skipped a beat, then hammered a frantic rhythm against her ribs. "Ethan, what are you—" "Silence, Omega." The command slammed into her like a physical blow. Mia gasped, her knees buckling. Ethan looked out at the crowd, a sneer curling his lip. "For years, this Omega has followed me. She has mistaken kindness for affection. She has mistaken pity for a mate bond." "No," Mia whispered, tears instantly blurring her vision. "Ethan, you promised, last night, by the river. You said—" Ethan ignored her. He turned to his right and extended a hand. From the shadows of the VIP section, a woman stepped forward. Victoria Sterling. She was a high-born beta, dressed in silk that cost more than Mia's entire life earnings. Her blonde hair was perfect, her smile cruel. Ethan pulled Victoria to his side, his hand resting possessively on her waist. "I, Ethan Blackwood, future alpha of the Red Pine Pack," his voice thundered, "reject you, Mia Thornwell, as my mate." The words hung in the air, sharp as daggers. Then the pain hit. It wasn't a metaphor. It was a physical snapping sensation deep in Mia's chest, as if a rib had been torn out. The mate bond, fragile and unacknowledged but definitely there, shattered. "Ah!" Mia screamed, clutching her chest. She collapsed onto the hard wooden floor. The pain was blinding, a hot iron branding rejection into her soul. "I accept your rejection," she choked out, the words forced from her by instinct to stop the agony. Ethan didn't even flinch. He looked down at her, his expression bored. Get her out of here. She's ruining the celebration of my engagement to the future Luna, Victoria. Laughter. It started as a ripple and grew into a wave. The pack was laughing. 2 guards grabbed Mia by her arms, dragging her backward through the haze of pain. She saw Victoria lean up and kiss Ethan. Ethan kissed her back, deep and passionate the way he used to kiss Mia. Mia woke up hours later in her small, drafty room in the servants' quarters. Her chest ached with a dull, throbbing emptiness. "You shouldn't have aimed so high. Mia." Her mother's voice came from the corner. Sarah was weeping into her apron. "I told you, alphas don't mate with omegas. We are dust to them." Mia sat up, wincing. The memory of the humiliation washed over her, hot and shameful, but clarity was cutting through the pain. Mistaken kindness for affection. No, it was a lie. Flashbacks assaulted her. Ethan, 3 years ago, cornering her in the laundry room, telling her she smelled like vanilla and rain. Ethan sneaking into her room at night, whispering that he would change the laws for her. Ethan, using her body to satisfy his urges while he waited for a political match. He had used her. He had drained her of love and hope, and then discarded her like a used rag to boost his own status. Mia looked at her mother, seeing the fear and the submission etched into Sarah's spine. If I stay, Mia realized, I will die. If not from the rejection, then from the shame, or worse, I will become like Mom, a ghost in my own life. I'm leaving, Mia said. Her voice was raspy, but steady. What, you can't, Sarah gasped. Where will you go? You're an Omega. You'll be killed by rogues within the hour. Better to die free than live as his slave, Mia said. She grabbed an old backpack and stuffed it with 2 changes of clothes, a bottle of water, and the small stash of money she had hidden under a floorboard. Mia, please. I love you, Mom. Mia kissed her mother's trembling forehead, but I am done. She slipped out the window into the rain-slicked night. The woods of the Red Pine territory were dense, but Mia knew them better than anyone. She ran. She didn't shift into her wolf. Her wolf was too weak, too broken from the rejection to surface. So she ran on human legs, the branches whipping her face, the mud sucking at her boots. She ran until her lungs burned and the scent of red pine faded. She had crossed the border. She was in the neutral lands. Snap. A twig broke to her left. Mia froze. The hair on the back of her neck stood up. The smell hit her instantly rotting meat and unwashed bodies. Rogues. Well, well, a gravelly voice sneered from the darkness. Look what the little bunny brought us. 3 massive wolves emerged from the brush. Their fur was matted, their eyes glowing with madness. They shifted, bones cracking, transforming into naked, dirty men. Please, Mia backed away, hitting the trunk of a massive oak. I have nothing, just a few coins. The leader, a man with a scar running down his throat, grinned, revealing yellow teeth. We don't want your coins. Sweet thing. We haven't had a female in months. Mia screamed as the leader lunged. She closed her eyes, waiting for teeth, for pain, for the end. Roar. The sound wasn't a howl. It was a thunderclap that shook the very ground beneath them. Mia's eyes flew open. A blur of silver motion crashed into the rogue leader. It was a wolf, but not just a wolf, it was a monster. It was easily twice the size of a normal alpha, its fur shimmering like liquid moonlight, its muscles rolling like boulders under the pelt. The silver wolf didn't just fight, it obliterated. With a single snap of its jaws, the rogue leader was gone. The other 2 rogues whimpered, trying to run, but the silver beast was faster. It was a dance of death, brutal and efficient. In 10 seconds, it was over. Silence returned to the forest, heavy and metallic with the scent of blood. The giant silver wolf turned. Its eyes were gold molten, swirling gold that seemed to burn with an inner fire. It stepped toward Mia. She couldn't breathe. She should have been terrified. This was an apex predator. But as the wolf neared, a strange sensation washed over her. The crushing ache in her chest, the rejection bond suddenly went quiet. The wolf blurred, bones shifting with a fluid grace that defied nature. Standing before her was a man. He was tall, radiating power that made the air crackle. He was naked, but he carried himself with such regal arrogance that he seemed more clothed than a king in velvet. His hair was silver blonde, wet with rain, plastered to a sharp, angular face. He looked at the dead rogues, then down at Mia. His expression was terrifyingly blank. What is a red pine omega doing alone in neutral lands? His voice was deep, vibrating through her bones like a cello string. Mia tried to speak, but the adrenaline crash was too sudden. The world tilted on its axis. The last thing she saw before the darkness took her was those intense golden eyes widening slightly as he reached out to catch her. Mia woke up to the smell of lavender and expensive linen. She blinked, expecting the moldy ceiling of the servants' quarters. Instead, she was staring at a vaulted ceiling painted with intricate constellations. She was lying in a bed so large she could have rolled 5 times without falling off. The sheets were silk, cool and smooth against her skin. Panic spiked. She sat up abruptly, clutching the duvet to her chest. "Easy, child, you are safe." A woman in a white coat stood by the window. She had kind eyes and graying hair tied in a severe bun. "I am Dr. Helena Cross. You are in the Silver Moon Palace." Silver Moon Palace. Mia's breath hitched. That was the stronghold of the Northern King, the most powerful pack on the continent. How did I get here?" "The Alpha King brought you in last night," Dr. Helena said, checking a chart. She frowned slightly. "You were exhausted and suffering from mild hypothermia, but what concerns me is the cardiac trauma. Your heart shows signs of massive emotional shock." Mia looked away, her hands tightening on the silk. "I was rejected." Dr. Helena's expression softened into pity, but before she could speak, the heavy oak doors swung open. The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. The man from the woods walked in. He was dressed now, wearing a dark charcoal suit that hugged his broad shoulders. No tie, the top button of his white shirt undone. He looked every inch a king dominant, lethal, and devastatingly handsome. "Leave us, Helena," he commanded. His voice was calm, but it wasn't a request. The doctor bowed and exited quickly, closing the door with a soft click. Dante Silvercrest, the Alpha King, walked to the foot of the bed. He didn't sit. He stood like a statue, watching her. "What is your name?" he asked. "Mia," she whispered. "Mia Thornwell." "You ran from Red Pine?" "Yes." "Why?" Mia lifted her chin, a spark of defiance cutting through her fear, because staying meant death, or worse. Dante studied her. His golden eyes swept over her face, lingering on her mouth for a fraction of a second too long before returning to her eyes. He took a step closer. Mia braced herself for the pain of the broken bond, the ache that always flared when an alpha exerted pressure. But as Dante moved into her personal space, the pain didn't come. Instead, a soothing warmth, like a hot bath on a winter day, spread through her chest. It was intoxicating. She inhaled sharply. He smelled of storm clouds, cedar wood, and something ancient, like old parchment. "You have nowhere to go," Dante stated. "You are a rogue now." "I will find work," Mia said. Swinging her legs out of bed, she was wearing a borrowed oversized t-shirt. "I can clean. I can cook. I'm not helpless." "No?" Dante murmured, almost to himself. "You are certainly not helpless. I saw you face those rogues. You didn't scream until they attacked. You stood your ground." He paused, his jaw tightening as if he was warring with himself. "I have a proposition for you, Mia Thornwell." Mia blinked. "A proposition?" "My daughter," Dante said, the temperature in his voice warming just a fraction. "Aria, she's 4 years old. She has chased away the last 5 nannies." "You want me to be a nanny?" "I want you to try. For 1 month." Dante crossed his arms. "You will live here. You will be protected under my pack laws. No one from Red Pine can touch you, and I will pay you 10 times the standard wage." Mia's jaw dropped. "Why, you don't know me. I'm just a rejected Omega." Dante stepped closer, leaning down. His face was inches from hers now. The intensity of his gaze made her toes curl into the carpet. "Because," he said, his voice dropping to a husky rumble, "when I carried you here last night, you were the first thing in 2 years that didn't make my wolf want to kill everything in sight. You are calm, Mia, and right now, this palace needs calm." He straightened up, the mask of the cold king sliding back into place. "You start immediately. Helena will show you to the nursery." Mia stood outside the nursery door, her heart pounding. This was her chance, a fresh start. She knocked softly. No answer. She pushed the door open. The room was a chaos of expensive toys, dolls and books, but the curtains were drawn tight, blocking out the sun. In the corner, huddled under a blanket fort, was a tiny lump. Mia knelt on the floor, keeping her distance. "Hello?" A small face peered out. Aria Silvercrest had her father's silver blonde hair, wild and tangled, but her eyes were large and gray, filled with a sadness no child should know. "Go away," the little girl whispered. "I bit the last one." Mia chuckled softly. "Well, I taste terrible. Ask the rogues in the forest. They didn't even want to nibble." Aria's eyes widened slightly. "You met rogues?" "Briefly. Your papa saved me." Mia sat cross-legged. She didn't try to touch the child. Instead, she began to hum. It was an old lullaby her mother used to sing, a melody about the moon loving the stars. Slowly, the blanket lifted. Aria crawled out. She was wearing a nightgown that looked like it hadn't been changed in 2 days. She crept toward Mia, sniffing the air. She stopped right in front of Mia, inhaled deeply, and then, to Mia's shock, the little girl climbed into her lap. "You smell nice," Aria murmured, burying her face in Mia's neck. "Like moonlight, like Mama used to." Mia froze, her arms instinctively wrapping around the small body. She felt a fierce protectiveness surge in her chest, hot and sudden. "It's okay, little one," Mia whispered, stroking the tangled silver hair. "I'm here." Dinner was a battlefield. The dining hall was a cavernous room with a table long enough to seat 20, but only 3 places were set. Dante sat at the head, looking like a storm cloud. Aria sat to his right, poking at her peas. Mia sat opposite Aria, feeling the weight of a 4th person's gaze beta Marcus. Marcus, Dante's second-in-command, stood by the door, watching Mia like she was a ticking bomb. "The child is eating," Marcus noted, his voice suspicious. "She hasn't eaten a full meal in weeks." Dante looked up from his steak. He watched Mia cut Aria's chicken into tiny star shapes. "Eat your stars, and you get a story," Mia bribed gently. Aria giggled a rusty, unused sound and shoved a piece of chicken into her mouth. Story about the wolf and the moon. Dante's knife paused against his plate. The sound of Aria's laughter seemed to stun him. He looked at Mia, really looked at her, stripping away the title of Omega and seeing the woman. "You have a way with her," Dante said. His voice was low, intimate in the quiet room. "She's just lonely," Mia said, keeping her eyes on her plate to avoid the heat of his stare. "Loneliness, it makes you cold. It makes you hide." "And what do you know of loneliness?" Dante asked. Mia looked up, their eyes locked. I was surrounded by a pack of 200 wolves for 3 years, alpha, and I never felt more alone than when I was with them. Dante stared at her, his pupils dilating. The air between them thickened, charged with static. He leaned forward slightly, as if drawn by a magnet. "Papa," Arya asked, breaking the spell, "can Miss Mia stay forever?" Dante cleared his throat, leaning back, breaking the connection. "We shall see. Arya, eat your stars." Later that night, the palace was asleep, but Mia couldn't settle. The moonlight was calling to her. She slipped out onto the terrace that overlooked the royal gardens. The night air was crisp, carrying the scent of night-blooming jasmine. She closed her eyes, letting the moonlight wash over her skin. For the first time since the rejection, she didn't feel broken. She felt live. A strange hum vibrated under her skin, like energy waiting to be released. "You shouldn't be out here alone." Mia spun around. Dante emerged from the shadows. He had shed the suit jacket, his white shirt glowing in the pale light. He moved silently, like a predator stalking prey. "I couldn't sleep," Mia said, backing up until her hips hit the stone railing. "Neither could I," Dante admitted. He stopped a foot away from her. Too close, much too close for propriety. He towered over her, blocking out the world. The wind blew a lock of hair across her face. Before she could react, Dante reached out, his fingers, rough and warm, brushed against her cheek as he tucked the hair behind her ear. The touch was electric. Mia gasped, a shiver racing down her spine that had nothing to do with the cold. Dante's hand lingered on her jaw. His thumb traced the line of her cheekbone. He was looking at her as if he was trying to solve a puzzle. "Why do you not fear me, Mia?" he murmured. "Everyone fears the Alpha King." I don't know," she stammered, her heart hammering against his hand. "My wolf. She feels quiet around you. Safe." Dante's eyes darkened to molten gold. He leaned in, his face descending toward hers. She could feel his breath on her lips hot, scented with mint and whiskey. "You smell," Dante whispered, his voice a rough growl. "Like salvation. It is maddening." He lowered his head further. His nose brushed against the sensitive skin of her neck, inhaling deeply. Mia's knees went weak. Her hands came up, resting tentatively on his hard chest. She could feel his heart beating a heavy, powerful rhythm that matched her own. "Alpha," she breathed, a plea and a warning in one. Dante groaned low in his throat. His grip on her jaw tightened slightly. Tilting her head back, he was going to kiss her. She knew it. She wanted it. God help her. She wanted to taste the storm. "Dante," she whispered his name. He froze. The sound of his name on her lips seemed to snap a cord of restraint in him. His gaze dropped to her mouth, hungry and raw. "Tell me to stop," he commanded, his voice strained. "Tell me to leave, Mia, because if you don't—" Mia couldn't speak. She parted her lips. Suddenly, a sharp pain spiked in her head. A vision flashed before her eyes, not of Dante, but of a woman with silver hair and sad eyes, standing in a mirror. Mia stumbled back, breaking the contact. Dante stepped back immediately, his chest heaving. He ran a hand through his hair, struggling for control. "Go to bed. Mia, before I do something we will both regret." Mia turned and fled back into the palace, her lips tingling with the ghost of a kiss that never happened. She ran to her room and locked the door, breathing hard. She walked to the tall vanity mirror to splash water on her face. She looked up, water dripping from her lashes. She froze. In the mirror, the reflection stared back, but it wasn't Mia. The woman in the glass wore a crown of woven moonlight. Her hair was silver, not Mia's chestnut brown. Her eyes were ancient and filled with sorrow. The reflection smiled a sad, knowing smile. "Hello, little one," the reflection mouthed, though no sound filled the room. "It begins." Mia blinked, and in a heartbeat, the image was gone. Only her own terrified face stared back at her from the glass. The month that followed was a slow, sweet torture. Summer had bled into the crisp beginnings of autumn, turning the Silver Moon territory into a canvas of gold and russet. Life in the palace settled into a rhythm that felt dangerously like a family. Mia spent her days in the royal gardens, chasing Arya through the hedge mazes or reading stories under the ancient willow tree, and always, lingering on the periphery like a silent guardian, was Dante. He was there when they ate breakfast on the sunny terrace. He was there, watching from his office balcony, as Mia wove flower crowns for Arya. He never engaged directly during the day, maintaining the icy distance of a king, but his eyes were always on her. The servants noticed. The whispers in the kitchen grew louder. They called Mia the sun-kissed Omega, a title that made her blush and look down at her shoes whenever she walked the corridors. But the fragile peace was shattered on a Tuesday morning. The arrival of the black limousine was heralded by trumpets. Mia was in the drawing room, brushing Arya's hair. When the heavy doors swung open, Beta Marcus entered, looking stressed, followed by a woman who seemed to suck the oxygen out of the room. "Lady Celeste Moonshire," Marcus announced stiffly. Celeste was breathtaking. High cheekbones, platinum hair styled in perfect waves, and a dress of ice blue silk that cost more than the entire Red Pine packhouse. She was an alpha female, and her scent, cool mint and sharp steel, was overpowering. "So," Celeste drawled, her gaze sweeping over the room before landing on Mia with a look of utter disdain. "This is the stray you've picked up, Dante." Dante walked in behind her. His face was a mask of polite indifference, but Mia saw the muscle in his jaw tick. "Mia is Arya's nanny, Celeste, and a guest of this house. You will treat her with respect." Celeste laughed, a sound like breaking glass. She walked over to Arya, ignoring Mia entirely. "Come here, little princess. Look what I brought you." She dangled a diamond-encrusted bracelet. Arya shrank back against Mia's legs, burying her face in Mia's apron. "No, I don't want it." "Nonsense." Celeste reached out, her nails long and sharp. "She said no," Mia said. Her voice was quiet, but firm. She placed a protective hand on Arya's shoulder. Celeste's head snapped up. Her eyes flashed red, her alpha wolf surfacing. "Did the servant just speak to me?" "The nanny," Dante's voice cut through the air like a whip, "is ensuring my daughter's comfort, something you seem incapable of doing. Celeste." He moved to stand between the women. He didn't look at Celeste. He looked at Mia. For a fleeting second, his gaze dropped to where Mia's hand rested on Arya, and a look of raw, naked longing crossed his face. It was gone in an instant, replaced by royal duty. "Marcus, escort Lady Celeste to the guest wing. We have politics to discuss later." As Celeste was led away, fuming, Mia felt a cold knot of inadequacy tighten in her stomach. Celeste was beautiful, powerful, and an alpha. She was a queen in waiting. Mia was just Mia. That night, the library was submerged in shadow, lit only by the dying embers of the fireplace. Mia entered softly, clutching a book Arya had left in the garden. She thought the room was empty, until she saw the silhouette in the leather armchair by the fire. Dante. He was nursing a tumbler of amber liquid. His tie was gone, his collar open, revealing the strong column of his throat. He looked exhausted. "I didn't mean to intrude," Mia whispered, turning to leave. "Stay!" The command was soft, weary. Dante swirled the liquid in his glass. "Please." Mia hesitated, then walked slowly toward him. The scent of him, fire and rain, filled her senses, making her knees weak. She placed the book on the side table. "Lady Celeste is very beautiful," Mia said, testing the waters. Dante scoffed, taking a sip of his drink. She is a political necessity. The council wants me to mate. They want a Luna. She would make a strong Luna, Mia said, the words tasting like ash in her mouth. Dante set the glass down with a sharp clink. He stood up and turned to her. In the firelight, he looked dangerous, predatory. Strength isn't about claws or bloodlines, Mia, he said, stepping closer. Strength is taking a broken child and teaching her to smile again. Strength is standing up to an alpha when you are an omega. He was close now, so close she could feel the heat radiating from his body. Mia looked up, trapped in the golden gravity of his eyes. You heal her, Dante murmured, his voice dropping to a rough whisper. And God help me, I think you are healing me. Dante? I try to stay away, he confessed, his hand rising to cup her cheek. His thumb brushed over her bottom lip, dragging it down slightly. The sensation sent a bolt of lightning straight to Mia's core. I try to remember that I am a king and you are forbidden, but when you are in the room, the rest of the world just fades away. Mia's breath hitched. I feel it too, the pull. Dante groaned low in his throat. His other hand slid around her waist, pulling her flush against his hard body. Mia gasped at the contact. She could feel every muscle, every rigid line of him. You are dangerous, Mia Thornwell. He breathed against her lips. He tilted his head. Mia closed her eyes, her lips parting, waiting for the kiss that would surely ruin her or save her. Papa. The scream shattered the moment. Dante and Mia sprang apart as if burned. Papa, the monsters, Arya's terrified voice echoed from the hallway. Dante ran, his alpha speed blurring his form. Mia followed, her heart pounding not from fear, but from the lingering phantom touch of his body against hers. From the doorway of Arya's room, Mia watched Dante cradle his sobbing daughter, whispering soothing words. He looked up, catching Mia's eye over Arya's head. The heat was gone, replaced by a wall of pain and duty. He was a father first, a king second, and a man last of all. The next morning, Beta Marcus intercepted Mia in the hallway. He didn't offer pleasantries. He opened the door to a small meeting room and gestured for her to enter. Sit, Miss Thornwell. Mia sat, folding her hands to hide their trembling. You care for the king, Marcus stated. It wasn't a question. I respect him, Mia corrected. Respect doesn't look at a man the way you look at him, Marcus said dryly. He leaned against the table, his expression grim. Listen to me, Mia. I don't dislike you. You've done wonders for Arya, but you need to understand the history of this throne. He pulled a photo from a folder. It was a beautiful woman with silver hair. Luna Isadora, Marcus said. Dante's mate. She died giving birth to Arya. I know, Mia whispered. Do you know why? Marcus leaned in. Because she wasn't strong enough. The Silvercrest bloodline carries an immense power. To birth an alpha heir requires a mother of equal strength. Isadora was a beta. The pregnancy drained her life force. It killed her. Mia felt the blood drain from her face. If Dante mates with you, Marcus continued ruthlessly, an omega, and if you were to conceive, it would not be a joyous occasion. It would be a death sentence. For you. And the council knows this. They will never allow him to claim you. He straightened up. He's drawn to you. I see it. But if you truly care for him and for Arya, you won't let him make that mistake. You won't let Arya watch another mother die. The suitcase was packed. It was midnight. Mia moved like a ghost through the nursery. She placed a letter on the nightstand next to the sleeping Arya. Tears blurred her vision, hot and stinging. I have to go, she thought, her heart breaking with every beat. I can't be the reason he loses his throne. I can't be the reason Arya loses her father to grief. She leaned down and kissed Arya's forehead. Goodbye, my sweet girl, she whispered. You need a real Luna, not someone like me. She picked up her bag and turned to the door. "Miss Mia!" A sleepy voice stopped her dead in her tracks. Aria was sitting up, rubbing her eyes. "Where are you going?" Mia choked back a sob. I have to go on a trip, sweetheart." "Without me?" Aria's lip trembled. But you're my mama now." The words were a physical blow. Mia dropped her bag, rushing to the bed to hug the child. "Oh, Aria, no, I'm just Mia." "You are my mama," Aria cried, clinging to Mia's neck. "Don't go, please don't go." The door to the nursery slammed open. The lights flickered on. Dante stood in the doorway, chest heaving, wearing only sweatpants. He looked from the suitcase on the floor to the weeping child in Mia's arms. His eyes were wild, shifting rapidly between gold and human gray. The betrayal on his face was worse than Ethan's rejection. "So," Dante's voice was a low, dangerous growl that shook the floorboards. "You were planning to abandon us without a word." "I did it to protect you." Mia's voice cracked, desperate and shrill in the quiet nursery. Aria was still clinging to her neck, hiccuping softly. Dante stepped into the room. He didn't look like a king now. He looked like a wounded animal. He kicked the suitcase aside, sending it skidding across the floor. "Protect me." Dante laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "From what happiness?" "From death," Mia shot back, standing up and facing him, though she kept a hand on Aria's back. "Marcus told me about Isadora, about the bloodline. I'm an Omega. Dante, I can't be what you need." Dante's expression darkened. "Marcus oversteps." "He told me the truth." Mia stepped closer, pleading with her eyes. "I can't let you fight the council for me. I can't let you risk your crown or watch me die trying to give you an heir. I care about you too much for that." The confession hung in the air. Dante's anger seemed to deflate, leaving only a raw, aching exhaustion. He closed the distance between them in 2 long strides. He didn't touch her, but he leaned down, his forehead resting against hers. "You think I care about the crown?" he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "I would burn the throne to ash if it meant keeping you." Mia squeezed her eyes shut, a tear escaping. "Dante." "Stay," he breathed. "Not for me. If you can't stay for me, then stay for her." He gestured to Aria. "Give me 1 more month. The Harvest Moon Festival is coming. Just stay until then, please." Mia looked at Aria, who was watching them with wide, wet eyes. Her resolve crumbled. "Okay," she whispered. 1 month." Dante pulled back. His eyes were cold again, the wall going back up. "Good. I won't ask you again." He turned and walked out, leaving the room colder than it had been before. The following week was a study in isolation. Dante kept his word. He didn't ask her for anything. In fact, he barely spoke to her. He buried himself in paperwork, leaving the palace before dawn and returning long after Mia had put Aria to bed. It was a cold war, fought with silence and averted gazes. But while Dante pulled away, something inside Mia was waking up. Every night, as the moon grew fuller toward the harvest, the humming under her skin intensified. She felt stronger, faster. When she cut her finger in the kitchen, it healed in seconds, leaving no scar. She tried to ignore it, focusing entirely on Aria, trying to pack a lifetime of love into their remaining days. Then came the night of the Harvest Moon Festival. The palace ballroom was transformed. Thousands of golden lanterns floated near the ceiling, enchanted by witch magic. Tables groaned under the weight of roasted boar, venison, and autumn fruits. Wolves from neighboring packs filled the hall, a sea of velvet and silk. Mia wore a dress Dr. Helena had insisted on, a gown of deep, midnight blue that shimmered when she moved. It hugged her curves and left her shoulders bare. She stood in the corner, holding a glass of sparkling cider, feeling like an imposter. The Alpha of Red Pine and his guest, the herald announced. Mia's blood ran cold. Walking through the grand doors was Ethan Blackwood. He looked older, tired. Beside him waddled Victoria Sterling, heavily pregnant, her hand resting smugly on her stomach. She was beaming, basking in the attention. Mia shrank back into the shadows, but it was too late. Ethan's eyes scanned the room and locked onto her. He froze. His jaw dropped. Mia wasn't the ragged omega he had rejected in a pine forest anymore. She was radiant, dressed in royal colors, standing in the heart of the most powerful palace in the north. Dante was across the room, surrounded by elders, but as soon as Ethan looked at Mia, Dante's head snapped up. He stopped mid-sentence, his gaze narrowing on the Red Pine Alpha. Ethan said something to Victoria, left her by the food table, and began to weave through the crowd toward Mia. Mia's heart hammered, but this time it wasn't love, it was anger. Mia, Ethan said, stopping a few feet away. He looked her up and down, a flicker of regret and lust in his eyes. You look incredible. Alpha Blackwood, Mia said coldly, you shouldn't be here. I made a mistake, Ethan blurted out, his voice low. He stepped closer, invading her space. Victoria, she's unbearable. The pack hates her. I was a coward. Mia, I should have chosen you. Mia looked at him, searching for the man she had loved for 3 years. She found nothing, just a weak boy playing at being a leader. You didn't make a mistake, Ethan, Mia said, her voice steady and loud enough for nearby wolves to hear. You made a choice, and I thank the moon goddess every day that you did. Ethan flushed red. He reached out to grab her arm. Don't walk away from me when I'm... A low, vibrating growl shook the floor. Ethan snatched his hand back as if he'd touched a hot stove. Dante was there. He hadn't run. He had simply appeared, a looming wall of black tuxedo and lethal intent. He stood behind Mia, not touching her, but his presence wrapped around her like a shield. Is there a problem here, Alpha Blackwood? Dante asked. His voice was silky smooth, but underneath lay the promise of violence. Ethan paled. No, Your Majesty. We were just catching up, old friends. Mia has no friends in Red Pine, Dante said. Leave. Ethan scrambled away, disappearing into the crowd. Mia turned to Dante. His eyes were glowing gold, his chest heaving slightly. Are you all right? He asked, his voice rough. I'm fine, Mia said, looking up at him. I didn't need rescuing. I know, Dante murmured, his gaze softening as he looked at her lips. But my wolf doesn't like other males breathing your air. The air between them crackled, electric and heavy. For a moment, the ballroom vanished. Crash. The sound of shattering glass tore through the music. Screams erupted from the eastern balcony. Rogues, someone shouted. Shadow rogues. Chaos exploded. Black-clad figures swung in through the shattered windows, weapons drawn. These weren't mindless wild wolves. They moved with military precision. Arya! Mia screamed. She spotted the little girl across the room, frozen near the dessert table. A rogue with a serrated blade was sprinting straight for her. Dante was engaged, fighting 3 attackers at once, ripping throats with his bare hands. He couldn't reach her. No, Mia didn't think. She didn't shift. She ran. She threw herself across the polished floor, sliding between Arya and the rogue just as the blade came down. Miss Mia! Arya shrieked. Mia raised her arm to block the blow, bracing for the metal to slice through her bone. She squeezed her eyes shut, screaming a denial from the depths of her soul. You will not touch her. Clang. The sound wasn't metal on flesh. It was metal hitting energy. The room went silent. Mia opened her eyes. She wasn't bleeding. A dome of blinding, swirling golden light surrounded her and Arya. It pulsed with a heartbeat of its own, warm and terrifyingly powerful. The rogue's sword had shattered against the light, the pieces lying on the floor. The rogue stared at her, eyes wide with horror. Light! Light wielder! Mia felt a surge of energy roar through her veins. Hotter than fire, she stood up, the golden light flaring out from her skin like wings. She thrust her hand forward. A pulse of pure concussive force blasted the rogue backward, pinning him against the far wall with a sickening crunch. The light faded, flickering out like a dying candle. Mia swayed, her vision tunneling. The last thing she saw was Dante running toward her, his face a mask of shock, and Dr. Helena pushing through the crowd. Impossible, Dr. Helena gasped, falling to her knees beside Mia. She looked up at Dante, her voice trembling. Your Majesty, she's a luminary. But they were all killed 20 years ago in the Great Purge. Mia looked at Dante one last time. He wasn't looking at her with fear. He was looking at her with awe. Mia, he whispered. Darkness swallowed her whole. The war room of the Silver Moon Palace was a place of shadows and stone, usually reserved for planning battles. Tonight, it felt like a tomb. Mia sat at the head of the heavy oak table, wrapped in a blanket that smelled of Dante. Her hands were trembling, still glowing with a faint, residual shimmer of gold. Dante paced behind her, a restless tiger. Beta Marcus stood by the door, his face pale. Dr. Helena Cross was pacing on the opposite side, muttering to herself as she reviewed old scrolls. It is impossible, Helena muttered, adjusting her glasses, but the energy signature is undeniable, pure solar magic, the ability to repel darkness. She stopped and looked at Dante. Your Majesty, 20 years ago, your father, King Aldrich, ordered the Great Purge. He claimed the luminaries were trying to usurp the throne with mind control. He had every family with the bloodline hunted down and executed. Mia felt a cold shiver run down her spine. My parents, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I was 5. I remember. Fire. I remember running. Dante stopped pacing. He placed a heavy, warm hand on her shoulder. The contact grounded her. My father was a paranoid tyrant, Dante said, his voice laced with disgust. He feared power he couldn't control. He told the Pax that the luminaries were extinct. They were supposed to be, Helena said gravely. Mia, if the Elder Council finds out what you are, they won't just reject you. They will demand your execution. A luminary is considered a weapon of mass destruction in the wrong hands. Mia squeezed her eyes shut. A sharp pain spiked in her temples. Ugh! She cried out, clutching her head. The seal, Helena said urgently, rushing forward. Someone placed a psychic block on her mind, a powerful one. It was meant to suppress her memories and her magic, to hide her scent. The attack tonight, the need to save Arya, it shattered the seal. Help her, Dante commanded, dropping to his knees beside Mia's chair. He took her hands, his golden eyes wide with fear. Helena, do something. I can guide her through the unlocking, Helena said, placing her hands on Mia's temples. Mia, listen to my voice. Don't fight the images. Let them come. Mia gasped as the world dissolved into white. Flashback. She was small. The air smelled of smoke and burning flesh. A woman with kind eyes and golden light radiating from her skin, her mother was pushing her into the arms of a stranger. Take her, Elena Run. The stranger had silver hair and sad eyes. She wrapped little Mia in a rough cloak. I will hide her where no one looks for queens, the silver-haired woman whispered, among the ashes. Then, the image shifted. Mia saw herself being left on the doorstep of the Red Pine Pack orphanage. The silver-haired woman kissed her forehead. Sleep now, Mia Lunaris. Forget your name, forget your light, until the silver wolf calls you home. End flashback. Mia gasped, snapping back to reality. She slumped forward, catching herself on Dante's chest. He caught her effortlessly, wrapping his arms around her. "Mia Lunaris," she whispered, the name tasting familiar and ancient on her tongue. "That is my name. My parents were the Alpha and Luna of the Moonfire Pack." The room went silent. Moonfire was a legend, a pack that had vanished overnight. "This changes everything," Marcus said, his voice grim. "She is not a rogue. She is royalty. But royalty from a bloodline that is illegal to exist." Dante stood up, pulling Mia with him. He looked at his beta with eyes that burned like molten gold. "She is not illegal," Dante growled. "She is mine." "Dante," Marcus warned, "think, the council arrives tomorrow for the post-festival inquiry. If they sense her magic—" "Let them come," Dante snarled. "No." Mia pulled away from him. She felt dizzy, overwhelmed. "I can't put you in this position. Dante, this is treason. If you harbor me, they will strip you of your crown. They will come for Arya." She walked toward the door. "I have to leave." Dante was in front of her in a blur of motion. He slammed his hand against the door, holding it shut. He didn't look angry. He looked desperate. "You are not going anywhere," he said, his voice rough. "You saved my daughter. You awakened my soul. Do you think I care about a crown? Do you think I care about laws written by old men who are afraid of the dark?" "Dante, please!" "No." He grabbed her face gently between his hands, forcing her to look at him. "Isadora. On her deathbed, she told me. She said, 'Find the light, Dante. She will save our daughter.' I thought she was delirious with pain, but she knew. She knew you were coming." Mia's breath hitched. The connection between them flared, hot and demanding. It wasn't just attraction anymore. It was gravity. It was fate. "I am terrified," Mia admitted, a tear sliding down her cheek. "I don't know how to be a queen. I don't know how to be a luminary." "Then don't be those things tonight," Dante whispered, leaning his forehead against hers. "Just be Mia, and let me be the man who worships you." The storm outside the palace raged, thunder rattling the window panes of Dante's private study. But inside, the fire burned low and steady. Dante had dismissed everyone. He had locked the heavy doors. Now, it was just the two of them. Mia stood by the fireplace, the flames casting dancing shadows on her skin. She had changed into a simple silk robe, but she felt more exposed than she ever had. Dante poured 2 glasses of amber liquid, his hands steady. Though his eyes were dark with intent, he walked over to her, handing her a glass. "To courage," he toasted softly. Mia took a sip. The liquid burned pleasantly going down. She set the glass aside. "Dante, if we do this, there is no going back. Once an alpha king marks a mate, the bond is sealed by the goddess herself. Even the council cannot undo it without killing one of us." "Good," Dante said. He set his glass down and stepped into her space. "That is exactly what I want. I want to bind you to me so tightly that even death has to think twice before separating us." He reached out, his fingers tracing the line of her throat, lingering over the pulse that hammered there. "May I?" he asked, his voice a low rumble that vibrated through her chest. Mia nodded. "Yes." Dante didn't rush. He treated her like she was made of glass. He untied the sash of her robe, letting the silk pool at her feet. His eyes swept over her body, not with lust, but with reverence. "Beautiful," he breathed. "So much light." He pulled her into his arms, skin against skin. The sensation was electric. Where they touched, sparks of gold and silver energy literally arced between them, illuminating the dim room. "Do you feel that?" Mia gasped, her head falling back as his lips found the sensitive spot behind her ear. "I feel everything," Dante groaned against her skin. I feel your fear, your hope, your love." He kissed her then, and it wasn't gentle. It was acclaiming. It was a storm meeting a fire. Mia wrapped her legs around his waist as he lifted her onto the heavy mahogany desk, sweeping papers and maps to the floor. "Dante!" she cried out as his hands roamed over her, mapping every curve, igniting nerves she didn't know she had. He paused, hovering over her, his eyes glowing so bright they illuminated his face in the darkness. "I, Dante Silvercrest," he recited the ancient vow, his voice trembling with emotion, "claim you, Mia Lunaris, as my heart, my soul, and my queen, through darkness and light, in this life and the next." As "I, Mia Lunaris," she whispered back, tears streaming down her face, "accept you, Dante Silvercrest. I yield my heart to yours." Dante leaned down. His teeth grazed the junction of her neck and shoulder, the mating spot. "Mine," he growled. He bit down. The pain was sharp, immediate, and exquisite. Mia screamed, arching her back, but the pain vanished instantly, replaced by a flood of euphoria. It felt like her soul was being poured into his, and his into hers. A shockwave of energy blasted outward from them. Outside the palace, the storm clouds broke. A massive beam of intertwined silver and gold light shot up from the palace tower, piercing the night sky, visible for miles across the northern territories. In the study, Dante collapsed against her, burying his face in her hair, breathing hard. The wound on her neck was already healing, leaving behind a shimmering, intricate mark, the royal crest of the silver moon, interwoven with a sunburst. "It is done," Dante whispered, kissing the mark tenderly. "You are safe now. You are part of me." Mia held him, listening to their heartbeats sink into a single rhythm. She felt safe. She felt loved. But deep in her gut, the newly awakened luminary instinct whispered a warning. The light casts the deepest shadows, and the shadows are coming. The morning sun didn't bring warmth, it brought judgment. The massive doors of the council chamber groaned as they were pushed open. Dante walked in, his head held high, wearing his ceremonial black armor. His hand was firmly clasped around Mia's. Mia wore a white gown with a high collar, but it couldn't hide the glowing mark on her neck. It pulsed softly, a beacon of defiance. 7 elders sat on a raised semicircle platform, looking down like vultures. In the center sat Elder Thorn, a wolf as old as the mountains, with skin like parchment and eyes like flint. "Dante Silvercrest," Thorn's voice scratched through the air. "You were summoned to explain the energy surge last night. Instead, you bring this creature." "I bring my mate," Dante announced, his voice booming off the stone walls. "And your queen." A collective gasp ran through the gallery of witnessing alphas. "You mated." Elder Thorn stood up, slamming his staff on the stone floor. Without council approval, with a nameless Omega. "She is not nameless," Dante said, stepping forward, shielding Mia with his body. "And she is my true mate. The bond is sealed. It is done." "It can be undone," sneered Elder Mordecai, a man with greasy black hair and a cruel mouth, "if the union is deemed a threat to the stability of the realm." "The goddess blessed it," interrupted a soft voice. Elder Ravenna, the only female on the council, leaned forward. She looked at Mia with curiosity. "I felt the earth shake last night. Dante, that was not a normal mating. Who is she?" Before Dante could answer, the doors at the back of the room opened. Victoria Sterling walked in. She wasn't waddling today. She walked with purpose. She bowed low to the elders. "I can answer that, Elder Ravenna," Victoria said, her voice dripping with faux sweetness. "Victoria," Dante warned, a low growl building in his chest. "Get out." "I have evidence relevant to the safety of the Pax," Victoria said, holding up a manila folder. She handed it to Elder Thorne. Thorne opened the folder. He pulled out a photograph taken from a security camera during the Harvest Festival attack. It showed Mia not as a frightened girl, but as a being of pure light, wings of energy flaring from her back as she blasted the rogue. Silence descended, a terrified, heavy silence. "A luminary," Thorne whispered, dropping the photo as if it burned him. He looked at Mia with pure hatred. "You harbor a witch of the Sun bloodline, the daughter of the traitors." "She saved my daughter's life," Dante roared. "She defended this palace when your security failed." "She is a weapon," Mordecai shouted, pointing a shaking finger at Mia. "Her kind can mind control alphas. That is why you mated her. Isn't it? She bewitched you." "No." Mia stepped forward, her voice trembling but clear. "I love him, and he loves me. There is no magic in our bond, only truth." "Lies," Thorne bellowed. "Guard seize the witch. We will hold her in the iron cells until we can determine how you dispose of the threat." "Touch her and you die," Dante said. He didn't shout. He said it with a calm, cold certainty that was far more terrifying. His eyes bled fully to gold, his canines extended. The air in the room grew heavy with his alpha aura, crushing the lesser wolves to their knees. "You threaten the council," Thorne hissed. "This is treason. Silvercrest, this is civil war." Dante smiled, a sharp, feral showing of teeth. "Then let it contain war. But no one takes my mate." He grabbed Mia and backed out of the chamber. The guards, sensing the lethal power radiating from their king, were too afraid to move. Back in the safety of the royal wing, the atmosphere was suffocating. Dante was barking orders into a radio, mobilizing his personal legion. "Seal the perimeter. No one in or out if the council sends enforcers. Use lethal force." Mia stood by the window, watching troops run across the courtyard. She felt sick. "Dante," she said softly, "stop." He turned to her, his face wild. "I will not let them take you." "Look at what is happening." Mia gestured to the window. "Packs are taking sides. The Northern Alliance is fracturing. If you fight the council, thousands of wolves will die. Families will be torn apart, just like my family was." "I don't care about them." Dante grabbed her shoulders. "I only care about you and Arya." "But I care," Mia cried. "I am a luminary, Dante. My power is life. How can I start my reign with a river of blood?" Beta Marcus entered the room, looking grim. "Dante, Thorne has sent a message. If you don't surrender Mia by midnight, they will declare the Silver Moon Pack rogue. They will sanction a crusade against us. Every pack on the continent will be forced to attack us." Dante went pale. A crusade meant total annihilation. "Then we fight the world," Dante said stubbornly. Mia looked at him so brave, so foolishly in love. She knew then what she had to do. Later that evening, Dante finally collapsed into a restless sleep on the sofa, exhausted from hours of strategy meetings. Mia stood over him. She brushed a stray lock of hair from his forehead. "I love you," she whispered, tears falling onto his cheek. "And because I love you, I will not let you destroy your kingdom for me." She placed a hand over his heart, focusing her new power. She whispered a sleep incantation Grandmother Elena had shown her in the dream memory. "Sleep deep, my love. Sleep until I am gone." Dante's breathing deepened. He didn't move. Mia grabbed a cloak. She walked to the nursery. Arya was asleep, clutching a stuffed wolf. Mia didn't wake her. She couldn't bear the goodbye. She simply left a small, glowing flower made of light on the pillow, a nightlight that would never fade. She walked out of the palace gates. The night was cold. At the edge of the territory, a black van waited. It bore the crest of the council. Victoria Sterling was leaning against it, smoking a cigarette. She smirked when she saw Mia. "I knew you were stupid." Victoria laughed, Self-sacrificing little Omega. I'm not doing this for you, Mia said, her voice steel. I'm doing it for him. Take me to Thorn. Victoria opened the back door. With pleasure. The Elder Stronghold was a fortress carved into the side of a mountain, miles from civilization. It smelled of damp earth and rust. Mia was marched down endless spiral stairs, deep into the bowels of the earth. The air here was heavy with spells dampeners that made her skin itch and her light dim. They threw her into a cell carved from solid rock. The bars were made of silver, etched with runes that burned her skin if she got too close. Elder Thorn stood on the other side. He wasn't looking at her with anger anymore. He was looking at her with greed. You thought we wanted to kill you. Thorn chuckled dryly. Oh, child, you are far too valuable to waste. What do you want? Mia demanded, clutching the bars, ignoring the burn. Your blood, Thorn said. Luminary blood grants immortality. It grants power beyond measure. King Aldrich was a fool to kill your kind. I intend to milk you, like a prize cow. He turned and walked away, his laughter echoing in the dark. Mia sank to the floor, despair crashing over her. She had walked into a trap. She hadn't saved Dante. She had just given his enemies the ultimate weapon. Don't cry, little moon. The voice came from the shadows of the adjacent cell. It was rasping, weak, but undeniably familiar. Mia crawled to the wall, separating the cells. There was a small crack near the floor. She peered through. Sitting in the darkness was an old woman. Her hair was matted and gray, her body frail, but her eyes were silver mirrors. Mia gasped. It was the woman from her flashbacks, the woman from the mirror visions. Grandmother Elena, Mia whispered. The old woman smiled, revealing missing teeth. Hello, Mia Lunaris. I have been waiting in this dark hole for 20 years, waiting for the daughter of the sun to return. You sent me the visions, Mia realized. I did. Elena coughed. I had to guide you to Dante. Destiny is a stubborn thing, but it needs a push. Why? Mia asked, tears streaming down her face. Why Dante? Elena leaned close to the crack in the wall. Her expression became serious, ancient. Because, child, the prophecy was never about a war. It was about a resurrection. What prophecy? When silver mates with gold, Elena recited, and the child of both blooms, the moon kingdom shall be whole again. Mia frowned. The child of both, Arya. But Arya isn't my daughter. She is Isadora's. Elena let out a wheezing laugh. Isadora was my granddaughter. She carried the luminary blood, but it was weak in her, diluted. She knew she couldn't birth the prophecy. She died to open the door for you. I don't understand. Look deeper, Mia. Elena whispered. Why did Arya recognize you instantly? Why does Dante feel like you have loved him for 1,000 years? This isn't your first life. And Arya is the soul of the child you and Dante lost in your past life, waiting to be claimed by her true mother. Mia sat back, her mind reeling. The implications were staggering. Suddenly, the ground shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Elena looked up, a fierce grin spreading across her face. Ah, the old woman said, he is awake, and he is very, very angry. Dante woke to a silence that was louder than a scream. He bolted upright on the sofa, his heart hammering a frantic rhythm against his ribs. The study was empty. The fire had burned down to cold ash. Mia! His voice cracked. He reached out with his senses, searching for the warmth of her light, the scent of vanilla and ozone that had become his oxygen. Nothing, just a cold, gaping void where his mate should be. Papa! The wail came from the nursery. Dante moved before his conscious mind could catch up. Tearing through the corridors, he burst into Arya's room. His daughter was sitting up in bed, clutching a glowing flower made of pure energy that was slowly fading on her pillow. "She's gone," Arya sobbed, pointing at the window. "The bad lady took her, the lady with the smoke smell." Victoria. Dante's vision bled red. A roar built in his chest, primal and terrifying, shaking the crystal chandelier until it rattled. He didn't just feel anger, he felt the apocalyptic rage of a dragon who had lost its heart. Beta Marcus ran into the room, breathless, followed by a dozen guards. "Your Majesty, the perimeter!" "Get the Legion!" Dante snarled, his voice dropping to a sub-bass frequency that made the guards' knees tremble. "Get the armored transports! Get everyone!" "Sir, the council." "Burn the council." Dante grabbed Marcus by the collar, lifting him off the ground. "They took her. If they hurt one hair on her head, I will paint the mountains with their blood." "We are with you." A voice came from the doorway. Dante turned. Ethan Blackwood stood there, looking grim. Behind him were 50 of Red Pine's best warriors. "Why are you here?" Dante growled. "Because I owe her," Ethan said, his knuckles white on the hilt of his blade. "And because Victoria, she betrayed my pact to the council to get to Mia. I want my honor back." Dante dropped Marcus. "Move. We kill them all." Deep in the earth, the cell vibrated. Dust trickled down from the ceiling, coating Mia's hair. "He is coming," Grandmother Elena cackled softly from the shadows. "The Silver King comes for his gold." Mia gripped the silver bars, her hands blistering, but she didn't care. "Grandmother, tell me the rest. The prophecy." Elena dragged herself into the sliver of light coming from the hallway. Her eyes were milky, seeing a time long past. 1,000 years ago, Elena rasped, there was Princess Selene of the Sun and King Demon of the Moon. They were the first true mates, but the world was jealous. They were betrayed by their own families before they could wed. Mia's head throbbed. Images superimposed themselves over the damp dungeon walls. A terrace bathed in starlight, a man with Dante's face, wearing ancient armor, weeping over a woman with silver hair. "They died," Elena whispered, "but their love was too strong for death. They promised to find each other again, to finish the circle." "And the child?" Mia asked, her breath hitching. "Selene was pregnant when she died," Elena said sadly. "The soul of that unborn child has wandered for a millennium, waiting for her parents to reunite, waiting for a vessel strong enough to hold her." Mia gasped. "Arya!" "Yes," Elena nodded. "That is why you love her as if you birthed her, because in a way, you did. Her soul called to yours across time." Boom! The entire stronghold lurched sideways. The sound of tearing metal and screaming alarms erupted from above. "It begins," Elena whispered. The door to the dungeon block blew inward. Not opened blew in. A heavy steel door flew across the room and embedded itself in the stone wall. Through the smoke and dust walked Dante. He was covered in gore, his black armor shredded, his eyes 2 burning suns of golden fury. He held a longsword in one hand, dripping with black blood. "Dante!" Mia screamed. He turned. The moment he saw her, the murderous rage on his face crumbled into relief so profound it looked like pain. He ripped the silver door off its hinges with his bare hands, ignoring the sizzling of his own flesh. "Mia!" He gathered her into his arms, crushing her against his chest. He buried his face in her neck, inhaling frantically. I thought, "I'm here," she wept, kissing the soot from his cheek. "I'm safe." How touching. They spun around. Elder Thorne stood at the end of the hallway. He wasn't alone. He was holding a knife to the throat of a small, terrified figure. "Arya!" "No!" Dante and Mia screamed in unison. "You left the palace unguarded to come here, King." Thorne sneered. "My shadow agent snatched the brat 10 minutes after you left." "Let her go, Thorne," Dante growled, stepping forward. "Your fight is with me." "My fight is with the future," Thorn yelled, pressing the blade into Arya's skin. A drop of blood welled up. "I will not let this abomination of a bloodline exist." He raised the knife. Something inside Mia snapped. It wasn't a conscious thought. It was a memory of 1,000 years ago, of losing her child to a blade just like that. Never again. Enough. Mia didn't scream it. The voice that came out of her was layered, echoing with the power of 1,000 ancestors. She stepped away from Dante. Her feet left the ground. Blinding, liquid gold light exploded from her chest. It formed massive, ethereal wings that stretched wall to wall. A crown of woven moonlight materialized on her brow. She was no longer Mia the Omega. She was Queen Selene reborn. Thorn froze, blinded by the radiance. He dropped the knife, shielding his eyes. What are you? Mia floated toward him. She didn't look angry. She looked divine, terrifyingly calm. "I am the dawn," she said, her voice vibrating through the stone, "and you are just a shadow." She extended her hand. She didn't strike him. A beam of pure, warm light shot from her palm, engulfing Thorn. He screamed not in pain, but in shock. The black, oily aura of his corruption hissed and evaporated. The hate was burned out of him, leaving only a sobbing, broken old man on the floor. Mia landed softly. The light faded, leaving her gasping for air. Arya ran to her. "Mama!" Mia caught her, falling to her knees. Dante wrapped his arms around both of them, his body shaking. "We found you," Dante whispered into Mia's hair. "We finally found you." Mia looked at him, and for a second, his eyes shifted. She saw King Daemon smiling at her. "Yes," she whispered, kissing him deeply, tasting blood and tears. "We are home." The Silver Moon Palace had never seen a day like this. It had been 1 month since the raid on the stronghold. The elders were in custody, awaiting trial for treason. Peace had settled over the north, a fragile, beautiful peace. The royal gardens were in full bloom, defying the coming winter. White roses and silver lilies draped every surface. Mia stood in front of the full-length mirror in the queen's chambers. Her dress was a masterpiece woven from silk that shimmered like moonlight, embroidered with golden threads that formed the crest of the sun. "You look like her," a frail voice said. Grandmother Elena sat in a wheelchair by the window, a blanket over her lap. She was weak, her life force fading now that her mission was complete, but her smile was radiant. "Like Selene?" Mia asked, touching the crown on her head. "Better," Elena whispered. "Selene was tragic. You are triumphant." There was a knock at the door. Ethan Blackwood entered. He looked humble, dressed in a formal suit. "They are ready for you, Your Majesty," he said, bowing his head. "Ethan," Mia smiled, "thank you for everything." "I'm just trying to balance the scales," he said with a wry smile. "Victoria is adjusting to life in the Theta work camps. It seems fitting." Mia took his arm. "Let's go." The ceremony took place under the open sky. Beneath the light of the massive full moon, thousands of wolves from every pack on the continent watched in hushed reverence. Dante waited at the altar. He wore white ceremonial armor, his hair gleaming silver. When he saw Mia, his breath hitched loud enough for the front row to hear. The look of adoration on his face made Mia's knees weak. Arya stood between them, holding a basket of petals. She looked like a miniature angel. "Do you, Dante?" Elder Ravenna, the new head of the council, began. "I do," Dante interrupted, not taking his eyes off Mia. "I claim her. I love her. I bind my soul to hers." The crowd chuckled. Mia laughed, tears shimmering in her eyes. "And do you, Mia?" "I do," Mia whispered. "I claim him. I love him. I bind my soul to his." Dante didn't wait for permission. He grabbed Mia and kissed her, dipping her low. It was a kiss of passion, of hunger, of 1,000 years of waiting. As their lips met, the sky exploded with light. Silver and gold auroras swirled above them, intertwining, dancing. The crowd cheered, a deafening howl of joy. But the joy was cut short. A boom of thunder shook the ground. Though the sky was clear, the temperature dropped 50 degrees in a second. The flowers instantly withered and froze. A swirling vortex of black smoke opened in the center of the aisle. Out stepped a man. He looked like an older, twisted version of Dante. His skin was gray, his eyes black voids, and he wore armor made of shadows. "Uncle Alaric," Dante hissed, pushing Mia and Arya behind him. The Shadow King Alaric laughed. It sounded like grinding stones. "A wedding? How quaint. I love a captive audience." "You are dead," Dante growled. "You died in the purge." "I hid," Alaric corrected. "In the shadows you fear so much. I waited for the luminary to emerge. Her light, it smells delicious." He pointed a jagged sword at Mia. "Give me your heart, Dante, and I will let you keep the brat." "Over my dead body," Dante roared. "That can be arranged." Alaric raised his hand. The shadows around the garden stood up, forming hundreds of shadow warriors. They rushed the crowd. "Defend the queen!" Ethan shouted, shifting into his wolf form. The garden turned into a battlefield, but Alaric only had eyes for Mia. He moved like smoke, bypassing Dante's guard, striking him with a blast of dark energy that sent the Alpha King flying into a stone pillar. "Dante!" Mia screamed. Alaric lunged for her, his black hand reaching for her throat. "No!" A small voice screamed. Arya stepped in front of Mia. The 4-year-old girl didn't cower. She stomped her foot. A shockwave of power erupted from the child. It wasn't just gold, and it wasn't just silver. It was platinum, a blinding, white-hot light that combined the Alpha Command and the luminary magic. The prophecy, the child of both blooms. Alaric was blasted backward, shielding his eyes. "What is this?" Mia felt the power resonate with her own. She stepped forward, placing her hands on Arya's shoulders. Dante, recovering, limped over and placed his hand on Arya's other shoulder. The trinity was complete. "You cannot win, Uncle," Dante said, his voice joined by Mia's and Arya's. "Darkness cannot exist where there is light." They didn't attack him with violence. They attacked him with memory. Mia pushed her power forward, projecting a vision into Alaric's mind. She showed him not his hate, but his past. She showed him playing with his brother, King Aldrich. Before the jealousy took root, she showed him the love he had thrown away. Alaric screamed, clutching his head. The shadows flickered. The blackness in his eyes began to bleed away, replaced by tears. "Brother," Alaric whispered, falling to his knees. I am so cold." Mia walked up to him. She touched his forehead. "Then rest. Let the hate go." Alaric sighed, his body dissolving into mist, finally at peace. The shadow warriors vanished with him. Silence returned to the garden. Dante looked at Mia, then down at Arya. "Did we just—" "We saved the world! Papa!" Arya cheered, jumping up and down. Dante laughed, a sound of pure relief. He scooped them both up into his arms, spinning them around as the snow began to fall. Not cold snow, but soft, gentle flakes that signaled a new season. 2 years later, the sun was setting over the Silver Moon Palace, painting the sky in hues of purple and orange. On the balcony, Mia sat in a rocking chair, her hand resting on her swollen belly. Twins! The doctor said they were strong 2 little alpha princes with luminary eyes. Dante leaned against the railing, watching the garden below. Arya, now 6 and dangerously powerful, was teaching a group of pups how to make flowers bloom with a touch. "She's going to be a handful," Dante murmured, sipping his wine. "She's going to be a great queen one day," Mia corrected, reaching out for his hand. Dante took her hand, kissing the knuckles, then the palm, then the pulse point. He pulled her gently from the chair and into his arms. "Are you happy, my love?" he asked, his golden eyes searching hers. Mia looked out at the kingdom. There were no more rogues. The council was reformed. Luminaries were coming out of hiding, welcomed into packs across the land. She looked at her mate, the man who had walked through hell to find her. "I am," Mia whispered. She glanced up at the moon for a fleeting second. She saw two translucent figures shimmering in the pale light, a king and a queen from 1,000 years ago, holding hands, finally at rest. "We all are," Mia said, "forever." Dante kissed her, slow and deep, sealing the promise as the first stars appeared in the twilight sky.